Teclado y ratón. Como siempre, porque siempre damos vergüenza. Siempre. Vamos a ver tener conectado y algún sub si se mete. Veremos el evento. Cuando se enciende el móvil. Un minutito. Tan riquito. Vale. Vale, va. Como siempre dando vergüenza en teclado y ratón. Quien esté en el directo si quiere comentar. Le doy un aplauso, tío. Le doy un aplauso. A ver. Esto. A ver, tío. ¿Cuándo es? Chavales, ¿queréis ver una cosa? Es secreta, ¿vale? Esto lo voy a hacer. ¿Lo queréis ver? ¿Lo queréis ver? ¿Me van a banear por enseñarlo? Vamos bajando. Es que voy a bajar el mando porque bajo más rápido. No, mejor no le enseño el tío porque me van a banear. Me lo estoy jugando. A ver. Vamos a ver a quién podemos invitar. A ver si va a ser uno porque hace tiempo que no jugamos. Esto se va a ir un minuto por ahí. Contra este tenemos que ir, ¿vale? Este tío es un enemigo. Ese es nuestro enemigo, me da igual. Venga, únete, mamón, mamón. ¿Qué más? A ver si Eva se une. Le invito 2 veces más. Vamos a... ¡Oh! Que ya nos están anunciando y queda media hora. Que ya están anunciando. ¡Qué asco! Nos echamos una partidita y ya está, En teclado y ratón no, el evento lo veré en teclado y ratón. A ver si es mejor o algo. Himnos de YouTube, chavales. Los que estén. Himnos de YouTube. Si vemos que son lactantas, termino, pa. More tambote, ¿te imaginas que si no se puede? Voy a ver si Creative está en directo, viendo el evento, o alguien. Es que se puede. A ver. Es que a lo mejor voy a buscar Fortnite directo si ya está, tío. ¡A mí me la suda! ¿Te imaginas? Nos echamos 2 o 3 partidas y ya está, Aquí siempre voy a estar entendiendo. Uy, es perfecto. Uy, uy, uy. Uy, uy, la madre del amor hermoso. Que no sé jugar en tecla y ratón, tío. Que se quite. Vale, se ha quitado. ¡La Pepe! Por favor. Dame un autógrafo. Así también lo tengo, perro. ¡Toma, perro! Maldito. Mira. Diferencia cómo se llama el autobús. Tecla y ratón. Maldito. Ahora sí la señoría. Seguramente me van a matar el primero porque siempre he sido el más malo del colegio. Siempre me han dicho que tal. Siempre cuando me voy por la calle siempre soy normal. Dicen no sé qué tal. Siempre me dicen que soy un matar en mi colegio. Este ya lo sé. Los del colegio que me dicen mataos. Un aplauso, tío. Nadie me lo dice. No sé por qué. Ay, pared, está bugueado. Por favor, una escopeta. Por favor, una escopeta. El Big Game, gracias por la escopeta. Joder, tío, un ataque. ¡Qué miedo! Me ha salido buga, míralo. ¡Que no se muere, que me la robo! Vale, vale, vale. Godzilla. 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 No voy a dar lo mío. Vale, me la llevo yo. Aquí me la llevo yo. Venga, a tomar en breve. ¿Puedo jugar contigo en el evento? Claro, ya ves, claro. Que si no me aburro yo solo. Yo soy el aburrido. El que no juega con esa. Me voy a llevar esta, tío. ¿A qué hora es? A las 1 de la mañana, aquí en España. En Argentina es media hora básicamente. Toma, para los otakus esos, que no son tan otaku, pero para los que se he matado, son normales. Por favor, que tenga 30 balas. Vamos. Por favor, que tenga balas de fusil exacto, No sé qué balas, 30, 20, 50 limitados. O que esté a las 40 tiene el juego. Vale. Vale, te fusil. ¡Me cago, tío! No tengo micro, vale. No pasa nada. Coronavirus. Me la llevo, tío. ¡Otro otaku, tío! Es el mejor del mundo. Vale, ahora me llevo el asalto. El gris, porque los verdes solo voy a tener 10 balas, mis cojones, para eso no. La peor partida que he jugado en mi vida. En mi vida histórica de Fortnite que nunca he tenido balas de fusil de asalto y siempre y me he hecho muchas kills, tío. La primera vez que me pasa, la verdad. La verdad que lo... Vale, son 33. Veremos el evento que no sé de que se trata de concentración, no, si no me equivoco. No, por favor, que esté guapo. Si more tan bote, es que tengo que votar, por favor. Yo quiero votar a uno que le he visto la cara y me ha caído bien, tío. Me ha caído bien. Parecía yo cuando parecía yo de pequeño. Me ha caído bien, tío, me ha caído bien de un estadounidense que no lo conoce ni el Papa Francisco, pero me ha caído bien, coño. Me ha caído bien. Más bien que viene cuando viene. Miraré, tío, para la clasificación de nuevo. Pero me dejas verlo contigo, claro, ya ves. Porque no me aburro. Ya solamente te pones a petar así. No quiero hacer porque yo no puedo. Si te pones contigo o si algo petar, te pones a ¿vale? Pero por favor, que no pase eso, que no pase eso. Que mi vida ya que se extraña, por favor, que no pase eso. Que no pase eso. Y después del evento, si quieren, nos jugamos unos dúos a ver si podemos ganar alguno. A ver cuántos likes, vale. Por favor, Epic Games, que no hayáis puesto como la noche de Félix, género pirateo. Como pum. Yo antes, en la temporada pasada, lo veía, tío. Y lo grababa, lo grabé como unas 8 veces. Y no me hicieron ni una mierda. Entonces, Epic Games, por favor. Qué buena gente. Tan guapo lo de la misión. Y yo me panceta, loco. Yo no pensaba que las luciérnagas se explotaban hasta que vi Gambo cuando era... me di cuenta de que las luciérnagas se explotaran. La gente no pilla el chiste, pero bueno. Me va a tirar. Qué amigo, Viendo aquí y more tan bote. He sufrido con esa caída, literal. ¿Para cuándo tuve play? Mañana no puedo. A ver, mañana. Pues yo que sé, el fin de semana puede ser. Me lo voy a dejar. Aunque sea un cheto, chavales, se lo recomiendo. Es un cheto. Se carga las instrucciones así. A la mierda. No hace falta ni que utilices. No gasta ni balas ni una mierda. Utilizas eso. Es el nuevo destructor. Mancho off, pero ¿cómo se mete? Hacía tiempo. Hace 2 días que no hace... Para la gente que decía que no hacía directos en Twitch. De 1 hora y algo, ¿vale? Para que la gente vea que hago directos en Twitch. Y eso lo hago porque no hay copyright y puedo ponerle la canción. La jipeta. La puedo poner, tío. Por eso yo tengo Twitch. Y también porque a veces se me meten personas, pero tío, no me siguen ni una mierda. Me dejan a mí solo. Sin nadie. ¿Me imaginas que lloro? Es que YouTube, 100 seguidores. Twitch. 2 seguidoras. Para la gente que diga, David, ¿tienes voz y tal? No tengo voz, vale. Invítame, tío. Vale, que vaya. A ver. Te invito con el ratón porque ya ves. Me asudas. Son normales, no me vais a matar. Ahora te invito, ¿vale? Tengo un tío aquí que no está conmigo. Pones el taco. Ya está conmigo. Me da igual que me metan un snipazo. Ya te estoy mirando, ya ves. Ponete tú, ¿vale? A ver. Uy. Oh. Ese tío va a chupar más tuna. Como se la chupó a su madre, la verdad. Mi séptima, que vuela, chavales, que vuela, oler, que viene la séptima. A ver, ahora leo los comentarios. ¡No, tío! Mi madre también lo va a ver, vale. Me cago en su madre, tío. Me cago en el tío ese que le parió un teletabi. No sé. A ver, voy a ponerme detrás de esto. A ver si no me va a hablar. Vale, chavales. ¿Se me escucha? Vale, se me escucha. A ver. Quien no baile otro baile, asumiré que está muerto. Hasta ahora mismo asumiré que... No tengo un micro, vale. Capitán América. A ver, en la gran pantalla. Para avanzar uno en ser último, se ha deshabilitado los vehículos en fiesta magistral. También se deshabilitaron los gestos durante cada retransmisión. Me cago en su muerto. Que yo quería bailar en el evento, tío. Para que se den un ánimo, tío. Al principio pensaba que era un concierto. Para que se den un ánimo, tío. Y no se puede. Ponen escuadrón y tocamos y cambiamos a fiesta magistral. Dale listo, chavala. Darle listo. Vale. O sea... Ahora esto me cambio los payasos. Estamos jugando al fútbol en las videos consolas. Como he prometido, a la mierda te imaginas, no puedo hablar. A jugar en teclado. Si veis, si escucháis algunas cosas o el ratón, no es mi culpa, ¿vale? Es la culpa de este de aquí. Asesinó a este, pobrecito. F en el chat, pues, bueno. A ver, ¿vale? ¿Cómo que vamos a chavales? Ahí he dicho yo. El Capitán Man. Chavales, primero yo me voy a divertir. Bastante casino y otaku. ¿Cómo que hostia? Hola amigo, es mío. Aquí me pongo un pico que no se va a ver ni una mierda. Todo el mundo a correr, que no comáis pollicao. A correr. A correr. Hola, ¿qué quieres pasar conmigo? Perro, me ha dicho que no. Todo el mundo a la gran pantalla. Que no salte esta mierda. Todo el mundo. ¿Qué? Me está siguiendo, me está siguiendo. Está enamorado de mí, chavales. Un like. No, tú no. Me quiere robar el novio. ¿Te imaginas? Sigue la chica, ¿eh? No. Porque ahora a tu hermano es Yadir. Le escribimos por el después. Venga, espera. ¿Por qué abandonáis, tío? A ver, chavales, yo no soy maricón, ¿vale? Con lo del debió. Abandonado, what the fuck? ¿Qué ha pasado? Invítame, vale. Mira, y tu hermano no lo tengo. No sé. Sí me ha salido. No sé por qué. ¡No! Ah, sí. ¡Es un noob! Es un noob. Los noobs son los mejores, ¿eh? Los noobs son los mejores. Nos mató. Pues lo acepta ahora mismo. Nos mató. Pero familia que es un colega. Nos mató, le voy a aceptar. Si se me pone a invitarme lo elimino porque yo hablé sin querer un vídeo, tío. ¡Un jabo, loco! Amigo, este es el mío. Esta skin la quiero yo, ¿eh? ¡Que no me sigas! ¡Vete! Se puede cambiar la skin, loco. Me la cambio ahora mismo. A ver. Vamos a escuchar los bailes. Este me lo tengo que cambiar. A ver, me puedo poner este. flipándome. La última vez que vi un evento tuvo tan más mala suerte. ¿Dónde estáis? Se me ha salido. No. ¡Claro, está como me ha cambiado! Es un poco de intimidad, tío. Yadet, ven aquí. Así te ha salido de nuevo. ¿Dónde está? Yadet, a la gran pantalla. A la gran pantalla, Yadet. Voy para allá. Uy. Vale, ya viene por ahí. Yadet, vídeos de stock, tío. Y me tienes que decir cómo se hacen los estrenos, tío. Yo quiero verlo. O cuando yo te confirmó la 9, tío. Va a ser en 16 días o algo así. Redondeando. ¿Cómo haces estrenos? A ver, ¿qué hacer? Vale, eso significa que me está escribiendo, Eso significa, chavales, y que mi gata nunca me deja en paz. Me encuentro que te quiero lugar, pero... A ver. ¿Qué comentarios de ella desmayado? Te lo digo por Discord. Vale. Pero no me llame básicamente. Tengo el móvil, pero tengo que estar en el directo, ¿sabes? Una vez estuve en el directo mientras que esto... A ver, ¿cuánto tiempo queda? 10 minutos, mi gente, y me voy a quedar aquí, no te jodes. A ver. Yo, después del evento, venga, vale. Aunque esté en directo, me lo dice. Mi gente de YouTube, de Twitch, de Twitter, de Instagram y Facebook, que dentro de poco lo tendré. Y de Discord para los colegas. Estamos en directo y esto parece un desfile de sentadillas. Parece que todo el mundo está organizado y se tiene que sentar aquí. Que no se sienta ahí, pierde el evento. Se pierde el evento. ¿Qué quieres que te lo diga? Se pierde el evento y mi gata... Si no te sientas al lado, y yo como soy un atrevido... Soy un atrevido, Quillo. Mejor me voy a poner por ahí más bajo, porque soy un atrevido y no quiero que me pase la de la fila multitudinaria. Entonces mejor hago así y lo veo desde aquí, tan tranquilo que lo voy a ver, que no se va a sentir ni el Papa Francisco, loco. No se va a sentar, coño. A ver. ¡Voy a mover la cámara, loco! Pero si me ponen ¡una Galaxy! Pero amigo, pero vete con tu novia, no aquí, Aquí no está la chica Galaxy, Browston. Que va a salir el 30 o el 31, si no me equivoco. A ver si pongo el 1. ¿Te imaginas que me dan una mierda? Vale, chavales, me quedan 8 minutos para el evento de One the People. ¿Qué? Mírame a la cara. Que el chico Galaxy se vaya con su novia. Eso es verdad, Vete con tu novia. Galaxy, Te chuleas, te presumas, pero vete con tu novia. El contador. Es una mierda, lo. El contador. ¿Dónde es el contador? A ver. Aquí no hay ni el Papa Francisco. Está todo el mundo ahí, Está todo el mundo aquí tan tranquilo viendo el evento que no sale el contador. No sale el contador. Ya ¿a ti te ha salido ya el contador? ¿Sí o no? Házmelo así. ¿Sí o no? No. ¿Sí o no? ¿Así o no? ¿Te sale el contador? No me lo escribas, no. ¿Sí o no? Sí. A ver, va a pasar lo mismo. Si veo que quedan dos, si veo que queda algo. A ver, pasó lo mismo que el otro día, porque a mí... Gata, quédate quieta, loco. Vale, ya me sale el contador. Ya me sale el contador. Y ahora tengo que jugar a Minecraft en teclado y ratón. ¿Te imaginas? Ya me sale el contador. 5 minutos. A ver, le voy a subir el volumen. Volumen del juego. Vale, está todo al 100%. Voy a ir quitando el pin, ¿vale? Para que nos moleste. A ver, evento. Barra rápida, mapa. Y... ¿dónde está, tío? Estadísticas de red. Y así os gusta, chavales, así os gusta cómo se ve. No escucho nada. ¿Escucha mía o no escucho nada? ¿Se escucha algo o no se escucha nada? A ver, le voy a subir el volumen. ¿Se escucha algo o no se escucha nada? A ver, le voy a subir el volumen. Es cosa mía, porque antes se escuchaba la música y ahora escucho una mierda. ¿Se escucha algo? Es cosa mía, porque antes se escuchaba la música y ahora escucho una mierda. Yo tengo la... ¿Se escucha algo? Pero dime, ¿se escucha algo? Porfa, dímelo. Ya de esto. O sea, ¿se escucha la música o algo? Porque yo no escucho nada. Imagínate que yo escucho... Escríbemelo por el chat directo del directo. No. Ah, vale. Vale. Gracias por decirme. ¿Cómo que tiene la chica Galaxy? Sí. A ver, voy a ver si es algún error del Fortnite o algo, Porque no es posible que yo quiera escuchar mi pedazo de evento. Parece que estoy borracho, la verdad. ¡Gata, párate, A ver, ¿es algún problema del micro? Me lo voy a desconectar y lo voy a ver. Vale. Engañando, no se escucha ni una mierda, Eso no se hace. No se hace. Para nada estoy jugando en mando. Mirad, sé cómo juego en mando. Se escucha. No se escucha nada, tío. No se escucha ni la música de mierda. Por favor, como no se me escuche en el evento, veis, el mando lo tira al suelo, Yo suelo tirar a mi sofá que tengo detrás. Pero hago así, hago... te imaginas. Aunque lo hago, le tiro al sofá. A ver. Ya está. Y ahora quiere jugar conmigo, qué asco. Mi gata es muy malvada. Mi gata es muy malvada. ¿Así? No se escucha y no se me escucha a mí. Tío, que no se escucha ni la música. ¿Te imaginas que es un bug y le pasa a todos lo que hay en esta partida y no se puede ver esto? Y no se puede esto, no se puede. Y no se escucha en el evento. Mirad esos tíos de ahí. Centrar. Chavales, a ver, voy a buscar alguna forma. Le voy a buscar en mando que no se me vea a mí la cara. Que me tape la antes. Vamos a ver si aquí al lado de la chica galaxia por aquí. No. Vamos a subir un poquillo más. Por aquí. Los chavales lo vemos así, de una. Así. Y se lo agacho. Así de una. 19. No, sin centrar. ¡Eh! ¡Nos han timado! Nos han timado,
badges better than having some heart. Okay, look now, look how they running. They beating white people down just to show us what's coming, or to show us we nothing, or to show us we only welcome when singing or balling. Shut up and dribble.
Hey everybody, I'm Carrie Champion. Welcome to We the People. So today we are having a very candid conversation with athletes and artists who want to make sure that you use your voice to vote. Voting is your voice. So we have so many different issues that have happened in this country. It's really truly unprecedented time. So I'm looking forward to these conversations. I think you'll be educated, as well as entertained, but most importantly informed. We have morethanavote.org, whenweallvote.org, and fairfight.com. Those resources are imperative as we try to change our future.
Yeah, la.
There's no way that we can talk about hip hop, or even the fact that we want to talk about activism.
Ya ves, no me digas a quién va a votar. Creo que está secreto.
Texas, we are talking about Bumby. He is an activist, a scholar, and an all-around gentleman. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Bun, I don't want to start heavy, but I guess I have to because that's where we are in the world today. It's heavy as hell. And when you think about what needs to happen in this country in terms of change, what's the first thing that you think?
Equality. That's pretty much the first thing that comes to mind, right? Like people need to be seen as equals in this world. You know, we had to fight just to be recognized as a full citizen in this country and not 3/5.
The world is now seeing what we've known for so long in the culture and in the community. The one way that we can fight is obviously voting. Talk to me about what voting means to you.
I hear people all the time talking about one vote doesn't matter and that voting doesn't make a difference. If that's true, why do they work so hard to suppress the black vote? Because they understand the power of the vote. And so it's time that black people collectively also understand the power of their vote. And not just on a national level, because a lot of times we only have this conversation every 4 years. People need to be very much involved in their local politics. They need to understand who their elected officials are, where they stand on issues that affect you. You need to use your vote to either support the ones that care about you and your condition, or to elect people who do. A newer initiative that we're dealing with is educating felons, right? So in the state of Texas, If you're a felon, right, if
yo
you've
también
been
iría a
to
la
jail or to
política.
prison, but you're no longer on probation or parole, you have the right to register to
No,
vote.
sí,
Another thing that was just brought to
así
my
negro,
attention is
pero
an
sí.
initiative called Orange, which is happening not just in Houston, but all over the country. If you're in jail currently during pretrial, but you have not been convicted, like you're still in jail waiting for your day in court, you are still eligible to vote.
And you said something so key. They work so hard to hope that we stay uninformed, but more importantly, to suppress the black vote. If you could do one thing with this message that we're trying to send today about how important voting is, what type of images would you like our people to understand and see when they go to these polls and vote or when they cast their ballots?
I think the images that we've all seen, you know what I'm saying, for decades in this country, if not centuries in this country, we've seen black people oppressed, we've seen black people attacked. So every time you look back and you see those old black and white images of people of color being attacked by dogs and people of color being sprayed with hoses, that's what they were fighting for. Back then, they were just fighting for a chance to vote. People like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Malcolm X, these people died to help us be in
me
the
cago en tu
position to have the
muerto.
power that we have now, which is to be able to
Yo te
cast
lo
a
digo,
vote
si le
and
digas
make a
Javo,
decision
que me
about
está
the people that have
molestando.
controls over our lives. So,
Me
I
cago en
mean,
la muerte de Javo.
if you in your own community need a reason to vote, look at a person like George Floyd. If the people in your city are not open to police reform,
Es
are
verdad,
not open to
George
having a
Floyd murió
conversation
por un
about
policía
defunding
de
the police,
mierda.
are not open to
Eso
issues
también
concerning
pienso.
economic equality,
Y es
judicial
verdad.
equality, and racial equality, right? If they're scared to say Black Lives Matter, you have the power to put people in those positions who do believe that Black
Ahora
Lives Matter,
después
who do
explico
believe in racial
por qué he
equality,
votado a
economic
Remy, ¿vale?
equality,
No
judicial
porque
equality,
me cae
right?
bien, sí,
Who
pero
see us as human beings. And if the people in your community don't feel that way,
yo votaría
vote them
esta
out.
porque este
It's
sería
that
muy,
simple.
pero me ha caído
Just
bien.
vote them out. We don't have enough
Yo
time
votaría
to
ese.
sit around and hope that people change
¿Vale?
their minds.
Yeah, Bumby, you point out something so important. We have the power, and that is in our vote, and that is with our voice, and that's how we use our voice. I think of where we are right now. People say this is a particular moment, but it is a movement, not just a moment, it is a movement. Why, in your opinion, was it George Floyd's death? Why was that the chosen brutality for people to say, oh my God, black people are still oppressed in this country, and it is not fair?
I think it's twofold, Carrie. In so many different encounters between people of color and the police, there simply is no proof of what happened in the interaction. And so what happens is in a court of law, it tends to lean towards the policeman's point of view, right? In this case, we saw very clearly what happened. I think the other thing is due to the fact that everyone was at home, basically, during this time period in relation to the coronavirus, you couldn't avoid it. Right? It was on every television station. It was on every social media platform. Everywhere you turn, you were constantly hit upside the head with this message. You see in the interaction that this man did nothing to deserve what happened.
That's right. That's so well said, because if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't worth it, and he didn't have to lose his life. I think that you touched on something that a lot of people talk about, and that is now defunding the police. That has been such a huge conversation, but there's so many misconceptions around defunding and dismantling. If you will, educate the audience.
All right, so most people, when they hear the term defund the police, they tend to think of, oh, they're going to take away our police department. Nothing could be further from the point. Defunding the police means that in certain communities, even Houston, take for example, we had over $1 billion allocated to our police force. Now, what is that money being used for? Some of that money tends to be allocated towards riot shields, right? Pepper spray, right? That kind of thing. That's only used against the people that fund this budget, right? So why would the people want to supply the police with the means to oppress them? If the police are concerned about the situations in certain communities with a higher crime rate, well, higher crime rates tend to happen in communities where there's not employment opportunities, right? There's not a lot of social services, and people are going to do what they need to do to take care of themselves and their families. When the community has more opportunities for employment, more opportunities for upward mobility, then they tend to be a less of a strain on the government. They tend to have a lower crime rate, and because of that, they'll have less
Passionate about so many things. Leaders accountable. Talk to me about some of the other projects that you're working on.
Well, right now, obviously, being a part of More Than a Vote is essential. We're dealing with primaries in this country right now. And we just want to educate people. We want to inform people because people are tired, they're angry, they're concerned, and they want information and they want action. And so we want to make sure that we give them the right information and lead them in the right direction. And we thank the people that do not look like us for standing with us right now, because it's very important that people who aren't black be involved, because if black people could have gotten rid of racism, we would have done it hundreds of years ago. And so I'm trying to use my voice and my platform just to let people know that if they feel like I do, there's a number of places they can go to enact change in their community. People need to know about how their city council runs. They need to know that they have the ability to speak when city council meets, to let them know that that's not the way that they feel their city needs to be run. Those are not the places that they feel the money of their community needs to be allocated.
And but even a step further, they can run for office in their local community. They can run for positions. Like, people act like they leave it up to somebody else. If you're upset, it's not hard to get on the school board. It's not hard to be a part of the city council. It really isn't. And depending on how small your town is, you could be a mayor. It's the power is with the people, and we need to just know that that's happening.
Absolutely. And it's always been with the people. You know, if you look at Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, right? She felt that there was a system of racism and a system of oppression that led to her son's death. And so what did she do? She ran for city council, and she was elected to city council. Our own former president, 44, Barack Obama, right, started in the community as an activist, ran for an elected position, became senator, ran for another elected position, and became president of the United States. So don't think that you can't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of power. Your voice is enough to make a difference.
Hey, man, I feel like I need to go out and run for something. You gave me a rousing speech there, sir. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. When I talk to my brothers, I have to ask you, as a black man, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a very strong relationship with God, so prayer definitely works for me. I have children and grandchildren who are watching me, who are encouraged by what I do, and they're proud of me right now. You know, and that's really what matters. You know, the change starts at home. You know, so as long as you have a support system that believes in what you're doing and supports you in what you're doing, you have everything you need to go out there and fight the good fight. And for those that don't, there's a community of people here to help you. So you can go to places like morethanavote.org. There are many different places that will encourage you, inform you, and they will put you with groups of people that feel like you, that are ready to take action. So no one has to go about this alone if they want to do it.
Yeah, we're stronger together. People have been saying it, but that has much more meaning now that we are in our movement, not just this moment. Bambi, it has been an education, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Keep up the good fight.
Ya ves, por favor. Ya ves, por favor.
So our next guest, I have to admit, I'm a fan, but there are so many different people that we could talk to, and I thought it was so imperative that we speak with her. You know her as Molly on the huge, successful show Insecure, HBO's Insecure. She also has a comedy special highlighting her Nigerian roots, and she's an amazing podcaster. Let's welcome in Yvonne Orji, everyone. You have such a beautiful way of making things funny, giving us our medicine with some candy, right? The humor and the healing. You bring all of that to your space. And right now, as you look across this country and how everyone is so broken and so upset, if it's not social injustice, it's the pandemic, it's depression, it's employment, the list goes on and on. How are you doing?
Hola, chica.
You know, I'm rediscovering self in a way that is hard but necessary. That will lead to ultimate joy. I know it sounds like a lot, but no, I think I personally think that God put all of us on a global timeout. Like, we just, you know, America hasn't done as good as other people when it comes to timeout, because everyone else is out playing at recess, and we're still in the principal's office hoping and wishing we can come out. But I think that if we settle into the timeout and really learn the lesson that we're supposed to learn from this season, I think we'll emerge better. We'll learn how to play well with others in more ways than one. And so personally for me, I'm taking this time to learn me in a new way. I feel like I'm being ushered into a new season, and I'm getting still, because sometimes the busy confounds the work that we're supposed to actually be doing. You know, we're busy doing other stuff, but we got work that we need to do on the inside. And I'm leaning into it. I'm like, dang, I thought I thought I was gonna be able to rest like everybody else.
Like, now we got one.
You know what? And I think that's what everybody is saying about 2020. It's demanding that we be better. And you said it's a global timeout. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's like everyone sit down, be humble, to quote the great prophet Kendrick Lamar. But like, no, seriously, sit down and let's reevaluate some things. Let us unearth and shake up the things that we have been trying to hide within ourselves, within our nation. I think America is going through an unraveling right now, a much needed, a much necessary one. And I think all eyes on us, right? There is no, oh, I was on the subway for an hour, so I didn't miss that thing that happened. No, everybody was home. Everybody, was watching when George Floyd died, and everybody, no one could hide it. Everyone was watching when Amy Cooper called the cops. Like, this is a time where it's like, oh, we can't pretend it away. We can't excuse it away. No. It's a global timeout. Sit down, watch, and let's learn. And globally, it's like, hey, we were going business as usual, but it ain't usual no more. Like, that's old. Anytime change occurs, it's very uncomfortable. And so right now we're sitting with we're getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
The minorities, we've been comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that to me explains just the existence for whatever we want to do, how we break into our careers, how we live our lives, how we find ourselves one of the few or one of the first. And that's a lonely road. When you look at, and when you talk about this global timeout, everybody had to pay attention to Amy Cooper. Everyone had to pay attention to George Floyd. How is that helping us as a people, as a country, during our global timeout?
I think, well, one, we're not minorities, Carrie. You already know it. It's like these labels that they put on us. It's like the same way of saying, like, black on black violence. Also, there's no white on white violence. It's branding.
Yeah,
right? It's all branding.
You're right.
It's like white people kill white people every single day. So no, there is no black on black violence. And if you say black on black violence, well, then let's brand white on white violence. Like, I watch Investigation Discovery. Ain't too many of us.
Features. Porque tú te ponías en medio y estabas viendo
I just even like, but to answer your question, what does that do? I think what everyone expected is what has happened in the past when the world was still open, right? In that, okay, you had everyone, from Trayvon Martin to Castillo to Sandra Bland, you had all of these lives lost, and black people made some noise. We rioted. We got out in the streets. We started the Black Lives Matter movement. All of those things, and then white people kind of just like, oh, let's give them something, and then it's just like, is it over? It's like Oscar's so black. Okay, good. We get some Oscars. Are we good now? Like, are we even? And it's now it's just like, oh no. This is not about like a Band-Aid. It's like, yo, we might have to amputate the leg a little bit, but it's all right, because by amputating the leg, we're gonna save the body. And so I think that's what's happening now. Like, America is realizing, like, oh, black people aren't just making a little bit of noise. Like, the protests are still out. The conversations are still being had. The change is still being demanded. And I think they're seeing, oh, this is not going no way. And no, it's not, because we need systematic change.
What a beautiful way to explore what is happening and describe our country. We might have to amputate the leg, but that's to save the body. That's what's happening right now. That's beautiful, Yvonne. And to that end, I have to ask you this, because the way that we do that, we use our voice. And our voice right now in this world, in this country, is our vote. And everyone talks about voting and how important it is, but I feel like more than ever we understand that it's not just about voting every 4 years for the man in office. It's about your local elections. It's about the mayor. It is about the district attorney, the people who have the power to bring charges against police if police brutality is an issue in your community. If you care about your school district, you can run for the school board. I asked this of you, right? Your parents are from Nigeria. You are Nigerian. You talk about that very lovingly. What does voting mean for you?
I think voting is power. I remember, I became a naturalized citizen back in the 90s when, because I was still a minor, my mom naturalized, and so we were able to do it under her. And just even that power of, like, we are American citizens, and all the access that we have by being citizens, one of those accesses and those access to power being voting, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because not only are we do we have the opportunity to be in this country, but now we can be of the country. We can be of the systems. We can be of the rules. We can be of what it actually affords. But I think going back to your earlier comment about just the setup of systems, I think we are done a disservice. Either it's schools or whatever it is, and I'm not putting teachers on blast. I think teachers do a phenomenal job, but for some reason we do not, and give them all the raises. I know too many parents who are like, this child of mine, I do love them, but hey, where can I drop them off? And I do think that there's a disservice done because, again, when we talk about them, to your point, we talk about every 4 years. It's important to vote for the presidency. We don't realize, like, oh, snap, we actually can vote about, like, how much our libraries get. It's like small things like that, but they make a big difference.
When you think of voter suppression in this country, what does it look like for you?
It's the system. When we talk about voter suppression, we also talk about systematic racism, right? It's all the systems that set up. And we've normalized, okay, maybe your job will give you a half day, or maybe, you'll be able to get this luxury. It shouldn't be a luxury. It should be built into the system. It should be built into the fabric of how we vote. But maybe you'll be able to get this luxury in order to enable you to go vote. Think about everything disenfranchised, marginalized Black person has to endure in a day. So in a day, you need to get to work. If something happens to your car, if something happens to your child care, if something happens there's so many factors along the way that can send you into a tailspin as an American. And then you add on as a person of color. If you're just trying to get to vote and you already have to go through all of these hurdles and hoops in your everyday life, imagine the one day when your voice really is supposed to matter the most in this country, but then you also see all the times that you tried to have your voice matter, and then it's been shut down, repressed, told it doesn't matter, and then you're kind of like, what's the point?
How do we keep hope though? If I'm watching this right now, how do we as a people stay hopeful? How do we believe in the promise that these quote-unquote forefathers have given us?
Because have you met Black people? By default, like, hope is infused in our DNA. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if we haven't been broken down through, be it through slavery, through capitalism,
give it to me,
colonization, through segregation, through, I mean, listen, the history of Black people in this country is, at one point, we were 3/5 the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That was a written law. And look at us now. We are whole. We are Black girl magic. We are Black boy joy. We are, you know what I'm saying? What I think about in terms of giving us hope, right? We're making a lot of people nervous right now, Carrie. We're making a lot of people nervous right now because they're like, dang, we put all these obstacles in their way, and these jokers are resilient. But that should give us hope. That should give us hope that, like, we can't stop. I mean, I went to the school of Diddy. You know what I'm saying? Hashtag, Harlem shaking it right now. We can't stop. And I think that's our motto. We can't stop voting, and we won't stop voting. We can't stop marching, and we won't stop marching. We can't stop thriving, and we won't stop thriving.
To that end, because you led me directly there, I've been asking everyone who has appeared on this platform, what does activism look like? And I feel like back in the day, we had an idea. Yes, it is marching. Yes, it is protesting. Yes, it is speaking out against things that we feel are not right or unjust. But talk to me about what activism looks like for Yvonne Orji.
Listen, activism, I think the beauty of activism is that it has many faces, right? You're going to have the people on the front lines. Like, you know what? Martin Luther King marched, but there were a lot of women who were in the homes like, hey, BT Dubs, when they come back, this is how we support all the people who are marching in the front lines. And we're going to be here doing what we know to do best here. And you know what? Somebody needs to bail them out of jail so now we need to be in the community, getting money or whatever it is. So it's like everybody has a position to play, and so play your position like a shortstop, right? So whoever you are and whatever you do, play your position. So activism could look like, you know what? I'm not the one that's built to be on the front line, but you know what? My pockets go deep, so I will support the people on the front line. I'm a comedian. Black joy is a form of activism.
there's always a call for entertainers or celebrities that have the platform to do something. Why aren't you speaking out? I'm not a believer in thinking that it's mandatory. Like you said, everyone can be an activist and be activated in different ways. But talk to me about the connection. Talk to me about the marginalization in your world and how you feel like it even inspires you to say more and use your platform to do more.
Beneath the surface of what we do, like Nash said, vale, tío, vale. The who, right? The who is the person who's going to be like, hey, let me call this out. Either blind racism, in terms of overt racism, in terms of ways that we can be better, in terms of ways that we can actually be more uplifting to the communities that you may not even realize that you're serving.
Before I let you go, talk to me about the urgency, in your opinion, for people to vote, our people to get out and vote this coming.
¿Qué pasa, tío?
Yeah, I mean,
me está mandando solicitud todo el tío. Todo el tío.
If you think you're tired now, I'm telling you right now, we cannot take this sitting down. We can't take this jokingly. I understand that it may be hard to figure out who to vote for.
Es que, ya ves, yo no le di dislike a sus vídeos.
We gotta vote for our families. We gotta vote for our legacies.
We gotta vote for continued progress.
We have to vote for upward mobility.
Que comparto
we have to vote for equality in a way that is long lasting.
Para que se suscriban.
And if we succeeded before, we can do it again. We talk about the whole. This is the time. This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to pretend a way that we haven't made progress. We have. There's still much more to be done. And you know what? We might have to get to a point where we pass the baton to our children and our children's children. But we still have work to do now for that generation.
Yvonne Orji, you are everything. You are Molly, but you are not Molly. But I love you so much as Molly on HBO's Canal. You are an amazing podcaster, Jesus and Joel. Shout out to Lovey. And then we also have movies. Like you, The World, you're also, wait, don't let me forget your hugely successful stand-up comedy special on HBO. Girl, you're doing it all. And I am so grateful. You're truly the dream. Not just the American dream, you're the black girl, brown girl, you're all dream. The immigrant dream, everything. You're a
su canal. Y él me lo agradece dándole
I really mean that. Yvonne Orji, ladies and gentlemen, nothing but the best and excellence personified. Thank you so much.
I love you so much, Mama. Mwah.
Vamos. Este ya sí que no.
Yeah.
So Atlanta has been one of the hotbeds in terms of political unrest and social injustice. We've seen so much happen in that city, and we've also seen so much come from that city, including one of our very own founding fathers of the civil rights movement, and that's Martin Luther King Jr. But right now, we want to welcome in someone who has used his platform to talk about voting, to talk about racial injustice, and how he's trying to help. Atlanta's very own Russ joins us now on We the People. Russ, I'm not going to fan out and tell you what some of my favorite songs were that I listened to repeat on yours. We're going to get to the topic at hand. So we got to talk about, recently you did an interview where you shared your outlook on culture and music, and you also were very candid about the fact that you have a privilege and that it's necessary for you to give back. Tell everybody about what that means.
It's very obvious, I'm white and I'm in Black culture and I'm benefiting financially off of it. So I feel like if you're a white person financially benefiting off of Black culture, you have to put finances back into Black culture. It's just that simple. The screenshots with your feelings, it just comes off like fake empathy. Because it comes off very dismissive and very, oh, that sucks for y'all. But anyway, back to what I was doing.
Have you felt that way always, or is it now because of the time where we are in this country?
I've always had the feeling. I think now it's just obviously elevated. It's a new level, and there's new, it's to the point now where you can't, first of all, you can't not say anything. Second of all, though, I just think saying something isn't enough anymore. I think, if you have the ability to put money back into a culture that you're financially benefiting from, you have the ability to, you should.
it's interesting that you talk about it in that way, because some people do believe that silence is the best way to go, because it's hard to talk race, especially if you're white and you're in the Black culture. People just feel as if they can't talk about it. They feel awkward. They feel as if they don't have the privilege or the voice or the words. How do you find yourself right now in terms of interacting with people when they want to talk to you about social injustice, police brutality, what's going on in this country right now?
Well, first of all, picking and choosing whether you want to be silent or not about race, that's a privilege in and of itself. But, no, I mean, you know, I try to just do my best to listen to the Black people around me and the educated Black people I have in my life. So I do my best to not act like I have all the answers for everything, especially in a culture that I'm not from. But you know, that's why when we decided to raise the money for Black Lives Matter organizations, we, you know, when we raised $500,000, we got on the phone with some of the women who started Black Lives Matter. I got on the phone with Tamika Mallory. I was on the phone with Karen Civil and talking with my friends to make sure the money went to like the correct places, you know, and people who really need it. It's just about listening. That's all. It's about listening.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because the way I think of activism, for me, it looks very differently. It's not necessarily just protesting on the front lines. I think that's great. But what about being an activist in the way in which you have decided to be one? What inspired you? What did it look like? You said you raised money for Black Lives Matter. What did you do? Walk us through everything that you did and how you find yourself in this moment right now.
So for me, you know, it was 3 years ago. I had like a string of festivals, and I decided that I was going to wear T-shirts with a message on them, because I figured what better time to use a platform than in front of, you know, a bunch of people. So one of the T-shirts I wore was, if you want to change the system, you know, speak up, white silence is pro-racism, the whole thing. And it didn't really it kind of got swept under the rug back then. But you know, when all this stuff started happening again, and it's been happening, the police brutality against innocent Black people, I was like, man, I'm not the biggest artist in the world, and I certainly don't have the most white fans in the world, but I got a good amount of people that I can definitely mobilize and turn into some money. And I know they're down for the cause because it's merch, it's a good thing. And I've always been outspoken anyway, you know? And so how am I going to be in Black culture and not be outspoken about racism?
And then I got to ask you this, because you grew up in Atlanta, so that gives you a heads up depending for so many people, because you're in the crux of that beautiful Black city where there are so many wonderful Black leaders, almost so much great music and things that speak to our culture right now. And we are really, really getting our word out, especially with this platform today, and saying that we must use our voice to vote. Talk to me about what the importance of voting for you in this upcoming election.
Yeah, so you know, full transparency, I never voted ever. And because, you know, I was one of those people who was like, my vote doesn't matter, and you know, and I don't know, maybe it's because I was younger, maybe it's because I really thought that, or I don't know, but I just think that it's got to, you know, now this is a bit of a privilege to say it's got to a breaking point for me, because obviously it's been past the breaking point for Black people. I think that as a whole, the young people need to get out and vote, because we're the ones that never show up. You know what I mean? We never show up to vote. But, you know, we're the future, so it's like, look, we gotta go out there and vote, and then whatever happens, but at least we did our part, you know? You gotta do your part.
You're very candid in saying that you just decided to vote, and I think there's a beautiful irony in the fact that you have your fans saying, because of you, I'm voting. Right. And there's something beautiful about that. But I want to know why now for you. Why in this moment is it important for you to vote? And what hit your spirit to say, yes, this is the time to do it?
Honestly, because I think that George Floyd really woke up a lot of people who, including myself, who I was vocal and outspoken about racism. I put it in my lyrics. I put it on T-shirts. I would talk about it in interviews. Like, you know, I was vocal about it. But that video in that moment, I think me, along with a lot of other people, just kind of was like, all right, like, words are simply not enough anymore. We gotta do something, whether it's raising money, whether it's voting or all the above. Like we got to do something, you know. And I'm ashamed that it took that for me to be like, I need to raise money and I need to vote. You know, it's a shame. And I don't know, I guess it snapped a bunch of people out of it, you know. And even if you were vocal and whatnot, it's time to actually put your money where your mouth is. It's time to go vote. You know, it's time to just stop talking about it. You know, and it's been time for that, but like I said, you know, I'm ashamed that it took me this long to actually really be about it, but I'm here now.
So Russ, we all know that this is going to be your first time voting. Tell me what that experience is going to be like for you in terms of what you're excited about.
I think you know what it's going to do for me. It's going to let me know that I'm contributing to something bigger than myself, and I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm being about it. Because, you know, for so long, and I know I'm not alone with this, but, you know, standing on the outside and just screaming about this and that and this should change, and it's like, all right, but did you vote? You know? And so you know, I know it's gonna feel good to know that I played a small role, you know. And that's the problem. I think the mentality of like, my vote doesn't matter needs to be changed to, my vote, albeit small, does matter. It's a role I'm playing, and if I play my part and you play your part and he and she plays their part, then we make a difference. But you know, it'll feel. I have a feeling it's gonna feel very, very bigger than me. And I think when you realize that giving actually feels better than receiving, that's when you start wanting to do your part and contribute. So voting is an easy way to give. You know.
Yeah. To whom much is given, much is required. And you have been given a huge platform, and we are so grateful for you, Russ. Philanthropist, artist, community activist, first-time voter. We appreciate you for doing this. Okay?
Pues si me escucha,
thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, la. So cities like Atlanta and Chicago have been at the forefront of the discussions, especially now in this country when we're talking about COVID-19 and systemic racism, as well as police brutality and what we can do in this country. Again, we're continuing our conversation, letting you know that your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice. We can change where we are in this country. Currently, I'd like to welcome in Chicago Cubs right fielder Jason Hayward. I appreciate you. I brought in Atlanta and Chicago because I know you grew up in the metropolitan area of Atlanta, more specifically McDonough, let's be technical. And you have been very vocal throughout this entire time in terms of what our country's been experiencing. Let's look at the past month and a half, if you will. What has been the hardest thing for you to deal with?
The hardest thing for me to deal with, Carrie, this last month has just been going from the virus shutting everything down to us being called to action. You know, we've had multiple police brutality situations. We've had people protesting, wanting to get the message out. But I really realized that I need to be a part of the positive message and make sure that doesn't get lost in all the chaos going on, for people to actually hear from a reasonable, respectable person who cares about everyone involved.
A reasonable, respectable person who cares about everyone involved, which leads us to More Than a Vote. It is a beautiful collective of Black athletes and artists. You are a part of that. Talk to me about why that's important for you right now, and this be a part of that collective.
To me personally, it's important to be a part of that because I've somewhat used baseball and my craft as an excuse to not get more involved in voting. But I can't any longer use baseball and work as an excuse not to get educated, and not also to show people, like, at any moment in time, any walk of life, we can make a difference.
So tell me in your words, what does activism look like for you?
In my words, it looks like LeBron James, the biggest athlete right now on the planet, speaking up and breaking the ice for everyone. And I think for the first time, people see and hear from us. So now we have white teammates, we have other people speaking up and realizing, okay, like, this is how we go about doing this. And to me right now, social media, athletes speaking up, entertainers speaking up, like we're trying to do with More Than a Vote.
You said something I thought was so key, because covering sports for so long, I know that it's tough for Black players specifically in Major League Baseball to talk about how they feel, Adam Jones did it in a very eloquent way early on, but there are very few that are vocal. You said you all were afraid. Why use that word and why were you afraid?
You was afraid because in 2019 there were 68 of us total. And there are 38 teams. There's 25-man roster on each team. There's a 40-man roster, which is on each team as well. And there aren't many of us.
5 minutos para
we're
votar.
outnumbered in that sense, but not always in a negative way when it comes to our teammates and our clubhouses. To get to this point, you have to move a certain way. You got to be careful what you say. You can't ruffle feathers. You can't come off in any way. Much like other black entertainers, much like yourself. Probably having to live through life every day, but to get to the highest level, you gotta button up, you gotta be seen and not heard. So baseball is, like I said, it was time for us to try and speak up and make a difference and show it's okay to do so because we can't be quiet any longer.
That is a button up, be quiet, be seen but not heard. That is an expression that a lot of black folks can relate to in whatever aspect of professionalism that they experience, especially if they don't work for themselves. They just feel that. That is also a socialization that we have as black folks, especially, like you said, if you want to get to the higher level. And for so long, I felt it bubbling right underneath the surface that so many of us who were in whatever positions we were, who had platforms, were tired of pretending and looking the other way and spending so much time making others comfortable while we were uncomfortable. Do you feel that this is the type of movement that is sustainable, or is it just for a time?
No, it takes everyone joining in on the conversation, and right now I feel like more than ever there is little things as possible to distract from bigger issues. We saw on draft day, we saw our president Theo Epstein holding up the sign saying Black Lives Matter and wanting to include the rest of MLB in that. But now we're having those conversations as well. So I definitely think this is sustainable, and it's not always just going to be the popular thing to do. This is something that people want to get right because they know we care.
Jason, you said you think it's sustainable, that what you're seeing, especially with your colleagues in baseball, that this can be something where you're feeling more comfortable, feeling more safe to share how you feel about social injustice and police brutality. What are you doing right now in this moment with your platform to help change how we look at voting and how to educate the culture and the community about voting?
Well, first what I'm doing, Carrie, is joining up with More Than a Vote and joining up with other athletes and entertainers to get that message out and use our platform in that sense as a group. And trying to create a brand with this to make it something that's not just about the election coming, make sure that it's about people getting educated for years to come and figure out where to vote and how to vote. We've got people in different areas that cover different demographics and influence different areas of people. And as a baseball player, as a black baseball player, I feel like now, like we talked about, it's finally the time to show people that you can use your voice in this profession. You don't have to be afraid. And to me, that can help a kid growing up. He can see me, he can see other guys that were in the video we posted saying, hey, this is what they're standing for. They're speaking up for these things, and it's okay to want to play baseball. It's not lame. It's not something I have to be as afraid of as I was before. So I feel like that's my role in this. I have a younger brother as well. He's 24. He also plays baseball. So I've got to lead by example. I can't just always come up with a good answer that sounds good on TV. When I get asked a question on, what do we need to do to make changes? I'm joining up here to make sure that I take action and get educated myself. For one, so many people, I feel like in Atlanta, they're on the move. But when you want to try to make a vote and try and cast your vote, you have to do it by mail. You have to sign up for the absentee ballot. Then you have to get another ballot in return. They have to send it back to you. Well, for me personally, they didn't send that back until it was too late. Right? We didn't get it in the mail to the address that's an Atlanta address at my parents' house. We didn't get that in the mail until it was too late. And then from other friends and family that are still in Georgia right now, I just hear about them being held in line so long and trying to get off work. And we know how it is for any family, but let alone a black family in the city or in the suburbs trying to take care of their family and trying to provide for them. You try to get off work, and then you're like, wait a minute, you start looking at the clock. It's like, oh, this is not going to happen today, right? And so I saw, Mayor Keisha Bottoms, reach out via social media to people and say, hey, I'm going to address these issues right now. I need y'all to stay in line, cast your votes, keep hanging in there. So to me in Georgia, that's what that looks like.
Well, it's interesting that you even bring that up because there have been all these images specifically from Georgia because that's such a battleground where you see people, especially when it came to the primaries, doing whatever it takes. And this is real life voter suppression that you're talking about. It's been happening for decades. It's not fake. What you're saying, these examples of sending you your ballot too late after the fact or shutting down the polls at 6 o'clock while people still are in line, that's a real life issue. There needs to be some type of change. And I think that what we're doing right now is fair, but the idea of voter suppression, do you think that is well known, especially with folks, within the generation, your generation?
I think it's known in our communities, right? I don't think it's spoke on enough. I don't think there's been enough light drawn to it. Bring it to light. Let people hear about it. Let people learn about what that looks like. And get more people to say, okay, look, like this is going to happen. We have to expect this. And we can no longer make the excuse. We can't say they didn't warn us.
Jason, everybody knows, or it feels as if everyone knows that the time is now. America's paying attention to us. We have their eyes. We have their ears. If you look toward the future, what are you most excited about in terms of seeing a change?
I'm excited about how fast the word is traveling. The word.
¿Qué se me ha salido? Que no he hecho nada, ¿eh? Le quería susurrar y creo que se podía susurrar en la partida, ¿no? Que me pierde el evento. Hola, hola, hola. Hola, hola. ¿Me escuchas? Eva, habla, porfa. Servidores de mierda, métete. Vale. Por favor, como se hayan acabado los votos esos de mierda, me meto una jeta más fuerte que parto el mundo y declaro la independencia. Corre, quiero votar, no, quiero votar, por favor, quiero votar, ese tío, me ponía que se podía votar y nunca voté en mi vida. Decían que era para mayores de 18, pero ahora puedo votar. ¡Sí! Quiero votar. Vamos a mí, corre, quiero votar. Eva, ¿me escuchas? Si me escuchas, ahora vean lo mío. Ahora, ¿vale? En la gran pantalla, ¿vale? Otro tío.
And we voted in 2016. We didn't vote, Karen. We didn't
Eva,
vote.
si me escuchas, en donde
so
estoy
many
yo.
people try to make this political. This is not political. Me telling somebody to vote is like telling somebody
Eva, si
to
me
pay
escuchas,
taxes.
ponte al
So
lado
that's
mío y
one,
después
getting
te
over
vas.
the stigma of nobody is going to represent our best interest. And then number two, the reality is that the person that gets the most votes doesn't necessarily win the presidency. That's uncomfortable right there, because that's actually what took place in 2016. The Electoral College chose the president. And if you put all of their pictures up, I'm pretty sure they look a lot more like each other than they look like you and I. How about that? And then the third thing, especially in urban environments, oh man, they create barriers for us, Carrie. It's like you got to jump over the fence, you got to run past the dog, you got to jump on the hood of the car. The lines is 5 hours long. You get up to the poll and they don't work. Elderly people working in the city, while they got the young people who understand technology working in the suburbs. Like, these are all systematic things that try to discourage us from voting. And then finally, we don't have a day off to vote. We need to work. So we don't get a day off. It's gonna be a full day, and I gotta work to pay my bills. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mail in vote. And you know what you want people to realize, that counts too. So your vote will be counted if you're able to mail it in. So those are a few things that I hope that we can do and mobilize. And shout to LeBron and his team. Shout to you and everybody involved. We will make a difference.
Well, let's talk about more than a vote. There is a Black collective of athletes, of artists coming together and saying voter suppression is a real deal, especially in the Black community. When you just talked about, I got to work, so I can't go vote. And then when we do get in the booth, just in case we don't have to work, do we know what we're voting for? Not only do we have to vote, we got to be educated. And it's not always even about the man who's in office or the woman who's in office for president. It's about your local elections. It's about the people who are your DAs, your state DAs, like the people who actually make change in your community, who will change police brutality, who will make sure that your community is taken care of, who will defund police and hope that they can help you in stopping police brutality. So talk to me about why you decided to be a part of More Than a Vote and what it actually means.
Well, it means a lot to be involved with such an impressive collective, as you mentioned. And I said this multiple times, and I know it can be uncomfortable when I say it, but a lot of times we have to get to the root of the issue before we find a solution. And the quote was, I wish America loved Black people as much as it loves Black culture. And this collective, by the way, represents in a lot of ways what's encouraging, but also sometimes disappointing about our role as Black people in America, because we were brought here as labor and to entertain, and we use those vehicles to get paid and move to the suburbs and be the idols of white kids. And so now that we have this collective, I would say sports and entertainment represent the most powerful group of Black men in the United States. I'm talking about money, power, celebrity, the ability to mobilize, community involvement, their leadership, their intellect. And so to have all of us pull it in the same direction at the same time for anything that we're passionate about is going to be a difference maker, but it's definitely going to be a difference maker in the 2020 vote, because we're going to make sure we inform everybody that they can let their voice be heard, and failure is not an option.
Jalen, what does voter suppression look like to you?
A perfect example took place recently, Carrie, in Kentucky. It was 6 p.m. at night, and so many people were standing in line enthusiastic to vote. And you know what they did? Locked the doors. And you know what the people did? They continued to bang on the doors, continued to bang on the windows. They continued to let it be known they were not going to leave the premises until they got a chance to vote. And you know what ended up happening? They opened those doors.
Vale, no vamos a votar.
So do not
no
be
vamos a votar. Lo que vamos a hacer básicamente es que están con este evento van a intentar hacer que podamos votar.
Because you know what's going to happen. At some point, Breonna Taylor is not going to be trending anymore. People are not going to be protesting anymore. But it's still up to us to keep making sure that our voices get heard, and this is one way to do so.
Right, and that is a form of being activated, being an activist. It doesn't have to be protesting. It doesn't have to look like what you think traditionally activism looks like. It's voting. It's that simple.
We now have to understand, like, this is a critical mass moment for this movement to continue to hold up as much steam for as long as possible. And that's what this collection is going to hopefully allow for that situation to happen.
Jalen, in today's age of technology, it should be easier to vote.
No doubt. It's like we call these devices smartphones, but yet I can't vote from them. All of the things that we do in our lives are in our phone. All of these barriers are things that people will need to overcome in order to create a level of enthusiasm to vote. And again, this is not political. It's your right to do so. And there's so many times where you feel like
Ahora
somebody
con el móvil podemos hacer
may
todo
have
eso.
gotten done unjustly in your community.
Esto es
Pay attention
verdad.
to who the judges are, who's running for Senate, mayor, governor. Pay attention who's running for president. And let's make sure in 2020 we make a difference.
Why is more than a vote so important and invaluable in our community right now?
Well, because right now, I think we have an opportunity to let our voices be heard louder than ever. Anytime you see the mobilization of white kids holding Black Lives Matter signs, that means there's a breakthrough. Now, what happens with that breakthrough is the next step. You're going to look down in your email, Carrie. You're going to see all of these companies telling you how they're going to work on their diversity, how they're looking themselves in the mirror. They need to make change. Just like in sports, right? You look on the field, on the court, all those black players. The further you get up, it's like altitude or a ladder. It gets thinner and thinner. And so a lot of people talk about the system being broken. I hate to remind people that it's not broken. It was built this way. And one of our ways to help change the system is to vote. So that's why more than a vote is so very important, so we can make sure everybody participates and gives themselves an opportunity to let their voice be heard.
I think it's interesting because you talked about black men being very powerful in the U.S. if they're athletes and entertainers, because for so long those have been the only avenues traditionally to create wealth. The NBA season comes back. What are your feelings on the season coming back in the midst of everything that is happening?
I think you'll see players challenging the establishment more. You're going to see them saying, okay, if you have all of these marketing and promotional deals, how many of them are with minorities? How many people are you employing in NBA? What about certain teams? Who do you have as a minority owner? Or what about the candidates that you have for positions of power? NBA players have proven as blacks that they are now movers and shakers in the game. They're now the dog, not the tail. So if they decide not to play, some of the biggest social changes and conversations have taken place in sports that weren't during the game. Colin Kaepernick was before the game. The Ali Summit was a press conference. So they could mobilize if they chose to. But if you do play, challenge the league. Black Lives Matter on the jerseys. Continue to make sure that every time people are watching the game, they're also seeing the movement happen.
Jalen, I appreciate you because you are always entertaining and informative at once. I really, truly am looking forward to the NBA season. Thank you for working with More Than a Vote because your voice, your platform, all of it is needed, my friend. Be safe, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I love and appreciate you. One call away always.
Thank you. Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Every conversation that we had today, I hope was helpful for you. I am so grateful to everyone who came on with me to talk about what's going on in our culture and how we need to change. Huge shout out to Jalen Rose, Bun B, Jason Hayward, Yvonne Orgy, and Russ. Their words were inspiring, but also important and invaluable. I hope your phone is full with all the information that we've been able to place in front of you. Again, you need to check out these resources because they are so important because we want you to vote. That is your voice. It is important. We, the people, want you to vote. So go to morethanavote.org, fairfight.com, and whenweallvote.org. Again, thank you so much for joining us and paying attention because this message, again, is invaluable. I'm Carrie Champion for We the People.
¿Terminó? ¡Tú, vete! ¡Vete de aquí! ¡No! Ahora hago así. Vaya mierda evento. No voy contra el racismo, pero el evento hay que admitir casi de aburrido. Porque se han puesto a decir que si votar, yo pensaba que íbamos a votar. Por eso me metí al evento. Pero que sea una. Torneo. Sí, torneo ahora mismo. A ver, vamos a ver. Vamos a ver la nueva tienda. Queda un minuto para la nueva tienda. A ver, le voy a susurrar algo que si me escuchaba o algo. A ver si era este. A ver, pues entrar. Vale. Quita nada, 20 segundos. Chica Galaxy, te queremos. Todo el mundo diciendo a la chica Galaxy. Ven, chica Galaxy, te queremos Galaxy. Ven, chica Galaxy, te queremos Galaxy. No es posible que no son. Pero todo el mundo, ven, chica Galaxy, te queremos Galaxy. Ven, chica Galaxy, te queremos Galaxy. Ven, chica Galaxy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Chica Galaxy, te quiero. Chica Galaxy, te quiero. A ver. A ver. O sea, estaba andando y dice, uy, alguien me mandó. A ver. Voy a poner esta a tope y voy a ver la música. Porque a mí me gustaba la música del dispositivo, Sé que esta música es la peor, pero... no me gusta. Encima, yo no soy viejo, pero a mí me gusta. A ver, ¿con quién está, no? Yo creo que está con esta y con los arquitectos. Es el mejor, la verdad. Bueno. joder. No me lo voy a comprar porque me lo voy a comprar esto. Y bueno, gente, espero que os haya gustado este directo. Dale like, suscribiros. Hasta la próxima. Espera, ponía que habían 2 personas. ¿Hay 2 personas? A ver, hay 2 personas. Si hay 2 personas, acaba de... Hola, ¿cómo está la nueva tienda? La nueva tienda, mira, mira. Es una mierda. Una pregunta, ya te quería decir una cosa. ¿Sabes que yo, por un grupo de WhatsApp que tengo con mis colegas, comparto tu canal de YouTube y tú me lo agradeces así? Y tú me lo agradeces así, diciendo... dándome dislikes a mis vídeos. A ver lo que me han puesto. Te enseño en Discord cómo hacer los estrenos. A ver. Vale, pero me voy a mutear, ¿vale? Porque... me gusta mutear. Soy silencioso. Venga, chavales, vamos de paso. Hacemos desafíos, unos pocos desafíos. Ahora cuando terminemos la llamada, me muteo, ¿vale? Y... vale, ya yo me voy a mutear, ¿vale? Tú te pones la cámara, te llamo, ¿vale? No me llames tú, te llamo yo. Te llama el pringao. A ver, me voy aquí. Me mandéis comentarios. Ya de este. Ya de este. Hola, hola.
Se escucha medio mal, pero bueno. Mira, yo te digo cómo son los estrenos. Es muy fácil.
Vale, pero pon la cámara.
Hay ciertos requisitos que no creo que tú puedas hacer.
Vale.
Primero que nada, tienes que subir el vídeo a YouTube, pero en computadora. Te dice selecciona un archivo. Después haces los datos, todo eso le pones el título al vídeo y después dice, ¿cómo quieres subir al vídeo? Como vídeo privado, público, solo los que tienen el link o estreno. Le pones estreno, pones el día, la hora y cuando le pones cuando quieres que se dé el estreno, le tocas en guardar, te tarda como media hora. A mí me tardó 1 hora porque si te va a tardar 1 hora, media hora y ya lo tienes.
Vale. Mira, entendí algo, ¿vale? En 2 semanas, ¿vale? Que tenga...
¿Tienes ordenador?
En 2 semanas lo voy a tener.
Ah, vale.
Pues en 2 semanas pongo así la cámara y le enfoco.
Yo edito mis vídeos en computadora porque se editan mejor.
Vale.
¿Qué es lo que no entendiste?
¿De qué?
De lo que te dije.
A ver. Nente, todo lo he escuchado. Pero yo lo que yo digo... A ver... Que se va a hacer...
Lo único que digo es que los estrenos es mejor que los vídeos.
¿Por qué? Porque en todos los vídeos me da ilusión hacer estrenos. Vale, en 2 semanas te pongas en la cámara porque yo no sé cómo se pasan los archivos. Vale. Adiós. Mira que nos llevamos mal a mis cojones, amigos. A ver, chavales, me la voy a jugar, ¿vale? No andar. A ver, voy a ver lo que me han comentado ahora mismo. Hola, Yadet. A ver, ¿me van a banear la cuenta? Fines y ratones, y no se lo mandéis Epic Games. Y nos llevamos bien, suscriptores. Porque dice la gente que los subs a veces trolean un poco. Y me joden y quieren que me baneen la cuenta de jefes y no hacer que haga más vídeos si nos llevamos bien. Ya. Pero digo, los subs a veces son un poquillo ratas. Y si hacen así, le mando una foto de Epic Games y me tiran la cuenta. Así que por favor, no se lo mandéis, ¿vale? No creo que me manden la cuenta. Es que si básicamente, si lo mandéis a Epic Games, ellos me banearían la cuenta. Pero aquí no habrá canal de YouTube. Entonces, a ver. Yo tenía 51, hay que llegar al puesto 1000 y algo. Tengo que
¿Y él, tu compañero?
¿Qué pasa, mi gente?
¿Quieres hacer arena, creo? Sí, como creo tú. ¿Quieres hacer arena?
¡Claro, loco!
¿Quién ha dicho claro? Pues si tú no quieres Foxy, te pulsamos.
A ver, yo quiero jugar con Foxy, ¿eh?
Yo me juego con Ariel.
Yo si no juego a Foxy, no juego yo.
Pues jugamos yo, Foxy o Creco. ¿Por qué no jugamos Ipon?
¿Qué 9 en eso? Teto o algo así.
Es que si jugamos prefiero... No, lo que pasa es que me cambió el nombre. ¿Y los cuadrones?
¿Que te lo cambió el pistolero?
En sifón, ¿qué es lo que cambia? ¿Qué digo? El alargue del pistolero. Tú no caigas en la autoridad y ya está. Ah, vale, o sea, esto solo
una pregunta,
es como arena, pero... Solo puedes conseguir escudo y... O sea, y curaciones, o sea, y...
¿le puedes
solo te puedes curar
a mi sub?
Solo te puedes curar con las eliminaciones. Cualquier cosa no cualquier otra cosa
vale,
no se
voy a tardar
puede.
5 minutos, ¿vale?
5 minutos. 8 horas más tarde.
No, es por una cosa de torneo.
Trampa pirata. Me encantas. ¿Qué hacéis? Mamá, ¿qué has visto?
Espera.
Anda, pon creativo.
Pon el creativo, coño, pon el creativo.
¿Podemos invitarlo aquí? Voy a esperar a que quiera. Yo quiero jugar con ella. Ay, también le crearía la cuenta de Fortnite y eso. La temporada 7.
Todo el mundo que ponga creativo o no me ponga.
Yo para el sábado se queda o el domingo.
Una pregunta, chavales. ¿Vais a poner creativo?
Sí, me estoy buscando un baile. Espera, que le da esto sin querer. Te lo voy a decir.
Casi me compro pavos sin querer.
Vale. Creativo. Pero ¿cómo que perdisteis un reto? El pistolero perdió un reto o algo así.
No sé, yo ya no me da tiempo.
Sí que hiciste un reto contra el pistolero, ¿no? De que si perdía, finalizaba directo. Y si ganaba, no finalizaba.
Sí, que decía, si gano 2 seguidas, sigo directo. Porque no tenía sueño. Pierdo, cierro directo. Le gané. Y le gané.
Y cierro directo.
Jugamos.
Como tú quieras.
¿Sabes qué, chavales? Me pongo táctico. Mira, en el mapa que voy a poner no se vale tirar.
Vale, voy a ver el comentario que me han puesto.
Podemos poner desde el champán.
No se vale tirar, ¿eh?
Chavales,
¿Alguno tiene este vale? Mejor desde el
No, porque es de la glow.
¿A qué hora es el evento? Ya ha pasado, lo siento.
No, es mañana a la 1.
Meteros a la isla de tríos.
Ya ha pasado, era a las 1 y ya
Esperaos que me falta uno.
Una hora, tío.
Foxy,
Espérate que me falta uno. Sí, acabo de encontrar un sitio secreto. Pero vamos a...
No, ni isla secreta ni polla.
¿Qué isla secreta? Yo no digo nada de isla secreta.
¿Qué?
Encontrar... Espérate que soy una de
Yo creo que...
Estaba bien, estaban las cosas que había.
¿Yo con quién voy?
Yo con Ocreco.
Tú conmigo, Foxy. La Glow vas conmigo, Foxy.
Y yo voy con el exponente sur.
Con la Glow. Tú vas conmigo, que soy la Glow. Vente al 4. ¿Tú quieres ir?
¿Te vas conmigo o con quién voy?
Vente. Foxy, métete donde se ha metido el otro.
Aquí. Yo me meto en el azul.
Tío, este es tonto. Ya voy yo sola. No, estamos... Ah, no, el desunido. Yo nunca te abandono.
¿Se va a tirar o no?
No, ha dicho que no. ¿En qué colores habéis metido? ¿Saben tú? ¿Vale? No vale tirar.
No vale tirar.
No sé cómo tienes. Pero si no vale tirar, mira, a ver quién gana. Ah, bueno, es verdad. No, pero no vale tirar. Que no vale tirar. Que no vale tirar. No me tiréis a mí, ¿eh? Pero estaba tirando.
No, yo no he tirado sin querer.
¿Para qué lo tiráis? Es que para que me tiráis, tío. Ven, Foxy. Dejadme curarlo.
Sí.
No, le dejáis que me reanime.
Sí.
Dejar.
Y si queréis te damos un pescado y esas cosas fritas, pero tío.
Sí, por favor, ¿le puedes dar un pescado? Es que él está muy poca vida. Él está que...
Ya he visto que eres.
Toma.
No.
Tengo 2 pescaditos.
He hecho a propósito, ¿eh?
No me deja cogerlos. Es verdad. Pone equipaje de
Foxy
Foxy.
17 que es de uno, están ahí.
Espera, chaval.
Cúrate, Foxy, cabrón.
Ahora nosotros nos hemos dejado curaros. Ahora nosotros dejad que nos curemos.
Y luego ya está, ¿eh? No dejamos que se cure nadie más.
¿Qué hacéis?
Yo no soy...
Me voy para la zona y me curo, ¿eh? Soy el que lleva el bidón en la mano.
Ya lo sé.
Estaba bailando. También no se me dispara.
Estaba bailando. Foxy, cuidado.
Foxy, eres el mejor, ¿eh?
Déjalos, no les dispares, me ocupo yo de ellos.
¿Tú de mí?
Yo no disparo a nadie.
Foxy, rompe.
Te recuerdo que te he matado ya más de una vez, ¿eh?
¿Qué me ves? En mi modo voy a notar cuando yo estaba aquí que mi muerto. Me has dado 200. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Que Foxy es un malillo? No, porque... Ah, bueno, no lo digo para ofenderte, Foxy, es porque no estoy por el principio.
He metido guanta, ¿sabes?
Ahora le digo, como amor, digo... No, pero bueno.
A mí me da igual con quién.
Con esto. Por el que hay aquí.
Que ahora mismo yo me confío
con nada.
¿Dónde está?
En un color.
Ah, pues como no se vale tirar, así ya está.
Ahora te tendría que tirar yo, como me has hecho tú a mí.
No, lo siento.
Espérate, no me mates aprovechándome la flora. Yo soy una Foxy.
Tengo gancho.
Ah, bueno, si te tiran no pasa.
¡Epa! ¡Kilo! ¿Me relajas la raja?
Lo que tienes que hacer es cubrirte por la parte en la que están ellos. Tío, me habéis dado como me tiréis y os mato, tío. Dejadme reanimarlo, ¿no? Al menos.
Déjame que me reanime.
Yo lo reanimo y luego si él muere dejo que lo reaniméis.
Yo me tiro, ¿Greco?
¡No!
Que venga tu compañero.
Déjale, estoy aquí, pero es que si no...
¿Qué haces,
Reanímale.
Pues tienes que... Tienes que la tormenta.
¿Tienes juras?
Yo sí.
Vale, pues jura aquí. No, si era por si te ha dado pescados.
Lo reanimo, ¿vale?
Sí.
Reanímalo al aire libre si quieres. No lo he hecho yo. Eso sí, vamos pillando hype, ¿no?
Exacto, güey.
Os lo pillo en un minuto, entonces como que me da igual.
Vale, se me colgó la piedra.
Pero tapaste la cara, güey.
Vamos. Ha muerto, venga,
por poco.
Cuando se muere por caída dejamos que reanimen y ya está. Reanímalo, compañero, o lo quieres dejar ahí tirado.
Güey, el otro guacho, ¿dónde
está? ¿Qué haces?
Es que no lo sabía.
Espérate, no te mato. ¿A cuánta vida estás? Es porque te he pescado y...
101. Sí, tío, que las mujeres.
Pero lo siento, no te puedo dar nada.
Porque ya se podía pelear.
No.
¿Qué haces?
Yo qué sé.
No, Foxy, tío.
Este se pone a matar, pues digo...
Yo qué sé, tío. Es que...
A ver,
Yo él se ha puesto a matar, pues si mato yo también.
A ver, yo pensaba que cuando uno cura, pues entonces ya se puede, ya se puede empezar a disparar.
A ver, yo creo que estoy en el rojo.
Tienes cara de tensiones. Toma, si lo quieres.
A mí no me gusta.
¿Qué tienes?
Si lo quieres. El suficiente en verde. ¿Tienes fusil de caza de franco con mira?
Sí,
déjamelo por favor. Un momento. Déjame un momento.
No, te lo doy y yo lo cambio por otra cosa. Granadas.
Vale, espérate.
¡Ay, la madre!
Muerto. Lo siento, con el franco sí bien.
No. ¿Rata? ¿Tío? ¿Me ha reventado? ¿Qué escame, tío?
No te preocupes.
¿Quién ha dicho que es spame?
Yo me mato.
¿Puedes curarme?
Por favor, no interrumpas, por favor.
Espérate.
¡Spame! ¡Vete a cagar! ¡Pero no spame! Tengo muy poca vida,
Muerto.
Toma ya.
Juego este me vuelvo. Pero me meto en Nintendo Switch. Vamos al 4. Tío, se ha metido el orco como se llama conmigo.
Se ha venido conmigo. O sea, el tendero se ha venido conmigo.
Amigo. Por favor, llévate bien conmigo.
¿Tienes franco con mira?
¿Flashes, vale?
No.
Vale.
Llevo yo los flashes.
Yo llevo flashes también, crack.
No, pero que a ti no te lo digo. Yo voy con...
Ya lo sé. Solo la cabeza, crack. A ver si...
Eyes like pocket. Nanya pocket dia.
No, ¿qué me ha tirado?
Yo no existo.
Pues dejarme que lo reúna.
Pero solo sale en el chat. No sé lo que te ha...
Pues dice que alguien lo ha tirado, entonces...
Por favor, alguien me recoja, por favor. Párate.
Vas a recogerle.
Voy, esperaros, que ha dicho que alguien lo recoja, ¿no?
Vas a recogerle, anda.
Estoy reanimando. Coño.
Te lanzas places.
Tengo uno solo, así que te reanimo los 8 y nos vamos. Yo no llego al punto, ¿eh? Así que píllame cuando llegues, por favor. Ya está.
¿Qué hacéis? Por favor. Le tenéis que dar un aplauso a estos chavales.
¿Una qué?
Un aplauso. Lo iba a recoger.
Vamos a ignorar. Bueno, a ver si me tengo muy mal. Mejor, no para mí. Bueno,
me gusta estar solo, ya no voy a poder compensar.
Hoy también por el loot, pero... Bueno, si vas con alguien te asegura la victoria.
¿Alguien se metió en el lila?
No.
Bueno, pues el loot. No me spaméis. Lo he dicho aposta mal,
Yo quiero ir a por el José, tío.
No, lo siento. A ver, me lo he dicho.
Ven aquí a robarme la cosa. Que no he dicho la apuesta para matarte.
No me lo he tirado.
No sé que no me lo he tirado, pero eso se construye mejor.
No. ¡A la verga! Me tiro.
Vale, no te hagas.
No me matarás.
Alguien.
Nunca me matarás.
No tengo cara.
Tengo muy poca vida. Vas a curarme un segundo.
Pues es
Tengo muy poca vida.
Claro, es que si llego a tener unas que te matan.
Es que yo no tengo, o sea, es que no tengo ninguna escopeta buena. Vale, ya
Se
sé.
están apuntando.
Con un franco no se entera. ¿Cómo falla eso, Dios?
A ver, ¿por qué le fallo a aposta? Epa, no me sabes el don spammer.
Está 5 vidas.
Pues esto es una bala. Pico.
Luego una escopeta verde. Se suicida.
Es que me suicido a aposta porque prefiero morir por tormenta que por un tonto culo de sweaty.
Pero ahora sí hay dos personas que tienen
encima el tonto del culo.
¿A que os habéis metido algunos en equipo?
No.
Y de menos mal.
Y yo menos mal,
Eso vale quitarlo, ¿no?
Nadie se ha metido en mi pedazo de equipo y en el look que tengo, loco.
También llevo el loot.
Poca, tío.
Espérate. No me voy a llevar este fusil y azul porque prefiero...
Voy a por a por el sniper, claro.
Tío, ¿quién se está haciendo la mansión de Roma en metal?
Soy yo.
No, yo soy el que está haciendo 90 con metal.
Y lo estoy cantando, No la estoy, o sea, no la estoy poniendo, la estoy cantando.
Ya he visto.
Ay, cómo me lo va.
A ver, no me hagáis poco.
No vale tirar. No vale tirar.
¿Tienes más de eso?
No vale tirar. Con inyecciones.
Yo tengo aquí esto.
¿Quién es el subnormal que se está haciendo la montaña de China?
¿De qué?
De China. Ah, es verdad, que va a estar de limbo.
No vale tirar. Joder, estáis asco, Tirar. Como la gente está en rata. Hay muchas cosas.
Pues así lo creo, así lo creo.
Para de tirar.
No es el rojo. No es el rojo, te entero.
Eso lo digo. Que voy a tirar.
Va cambiando cada vez.
Aunque llevo unas cosas.
No, yo ya tengo uno decente.
Es que aunque me tenga que morir a posta por ir a tirar. Tiro.
Se vale tirar tonto, se he pillado, loco.
Que no vale tirar.
Sí, vale, a mí me han tirado. ¿No? Ah,
joder, qué rata. Pero si me he caído desde una altura de 2 pisos. ¿Cómo me ha matado el rata?
Eso yo y a mí también me han tirado, así que...
Ya, pero es que yo no te tiro. No vengas a por mí.
Dejarme
a mí, tío. Dejarme un segundo.
Que venga. No sé si tiene huevos.
A ver si tiene huevos, a ver si tiene huevos, A ver si eres un spammer.
No sé qué era, porque me he caído.
No, spammers contra enemigos.
¿Quién es eso?
Era una tormenta porque...
¿Quién es la muerte, Foxy?
Es que...
Vale, si eres tan trata de suicidarte todo el rato, pues entonces...
Pero es que si me vienen 2 spammers tontitos totales que no tienen cerebro, ¿qué pasa?
Foxy, una cosa.
Que sí, vale.
Yo no sé por qué veis juntos,
No sé
tío.
por qué estáis haciendo equipo. Ahora no, pero...
Es que claro que spameo porque estáis en el mismo equipo. Es que parece vuestro amigo. Claramente. Esto es focus.
A ver, si me estáis spameando los dos, estáis curándome porque me ha... No, me ha matado.
A ver. Tú también.
Yo he tirado porque a mí también me
Pero yo te he tirado.
¿Y? Me ha matado olcrecolosgyfes.
Pues vale, pero yo no te he tirado. O sea, tira al que te ha tirado.
Olcreco, David, para los amigos. Yo voy a parar ya de tirar, voy a hacer 100% ilegal. Como no confío en nadie en mí.
No se queda con el ojo.
Yo voy a ir. No vale tirar,
Ah, claro, ahora no vale, ahora no vale.
Venga, tírame que tiene un huevo.
No te quiero tirar. Yo quiero ser legal. Tío, ya me... O sea, yo estoy mirando al de arriba. No me matéis, que te vas así. He subido la sensibilidad sin querer. Vale, ya estoy.
Venga, tirarme que tiene un huevo.
Había subido la sensibilidad del ratón sin querer. No estoy aquí arriba. No, ¡Spammer!
Pero ¿cómo quieres que rompa pedazos normal? ¿Qué quieres que rompa con el pico? Y que te me escapen, ¿no?
Escúchame. Pues encima uno que me dice... Ahora también me...
Madre mía. No me acuerdo cómo se llamaba.
¿Hacemos team de 2?
¿Qué
es? ¿Qué a hacer team?
¿Cómo te llamas? Que no me acuerdo.
Contra todos.
Voy al rojo.
Al morado. No soy rata y hagáis equipos.
Yo no soy rata.
Yo una ocasión conmigo me la suda.
Una ocasión en la que ya estoy rata. Ahora,
como él se ha puesto a quejarse de spamear, ahora sabéis lo que voy a hacer, ¿no?
¿Vale tirar o no?
Pues si yo no he spameado,
Vale.
Pero es que tú te quejas, tío. Si tú te quejas...
Claro que... Pero, a ver...
Si tú eres el que le estoy disparando sin querer porque lo estoy intentando ver.
¿Sabes hablar?
Tu micro es una mierda, pero lo respeto.
No te escucho porque tienes un micro asqueroso. No se te escucha nada.
¿Y a ti se te corta?
No te escucho.
Son los cascos del coche para mí.
¿Qué rata que eres, tío? Yo pensaba que al principio querías hacer kill.
No, sigo por ti.
No, que está mal.
¿Por qué he construido la rampa de lado?
Por ejemplo, ahora mismo, el José, Raúl, ¿qué se llamaba?
No se puede tirar, tío, que no se puede tirar. Maldita rata.
No. ¿Cómo te llamabas? Que no me acuerdo.
Que no se vale.
Que no te tira un Foxy ahora, no.
¡Me has tirado!
¿Y ahora?
Pues sí, ahora.
¿Quieres que te tire?
No quiero. Y te lo acabo de decir antes. A ver, es que yo me estaba curando y luego me vienes a spamear.
Como un botiquín para vender.
Ay, igual te puedes
dar. Si te matan los copos y si subes tanto, pues no te puedo matar.
Lo siento.
No lo sientes, porque lo haces a propósito.
No digas lo de... Tío, es que te voy a spamear. Es que eres un spammer.
Sí,
no te quejes. Yo ahora mismo...
Y en el mundo de Yupi el niño.
Antes al José, tío, le había puesto a spamear a que sí, José.
Se sube y él baja, ¿sabes? La rata.
José, antes de...
Sí, como lo veo,
Me llamo Sara.
¿Cómo te llamas, José?
Sara. Es la cuenta de mi hermana. Sí. Me iba a meter al rojo, pero bueno.
Pues Sara, a que a ti se te puede spamear ponerte en Snow. ¿A que sí?
Sí. Me voy a empezar. ¿Se vale tirar o no al final?
Chavales, voy a hacer la táctica rata que me han hecho antes. A puro lanzacohetes. ¡Sí!
Vale, yo también tengo lanzacohetes. ¡Sí!
¿Sabes qué? Foxy me la pela porque te voy a matar. ¡Sí!
¿En el 2 ha metido a alguien? Sí. Espérate un momento, espérate, por favor, espérate, que construyo la rampa mal.
Ya,
¡Esto lo aprovechas para curarte, rata!
Hombre, pues claro, ¿tú también te has jurado?
Eso no vale, tío.
No vale.
Hombre, ya que construyo el tato, si te mato, te mato.
Eso no vale, tío.
Déjame recargar, ¿no? No.
Por internet, ¿no? ¿Cómo te llamabas? Que no te escuchaba.
Eric.
Vamos a Eric.
Voy a ir a lanzacohetes. Voy a ir a lanzacohetes. Ay, sí, os voy a matar.
¿Y ese es controla? ¿Pero qué haces con tu mental? Pero si yo solo iba de lanzacohetes porque es que es lo que me han hecho. Yo simplemente estaba haciendo mi propia venganza.
Por lanzacohetes, sí.
Pero si has sido tú el que comenzaste con lanzacohetes, tontito mental.
Ya, pero por eso no tienes
que vale. Que casi no se te escucha.
Pues sí, será.
A lo mejor porque son...
Ay, qué aburrimiento.
Una pregunta, ¿quién es mejor, Foxy o Eric?
Pues obviamente. Es que en el caso no lo tienes claro, si es que hasta yo lo sé.
¿Yo o Eric? Claramente Eric.
Tío, ya me tiene que venir a rushar uno.
Yo no sé.
¿Quién ha gustado sentar que me da asco?
Foxy.
Pues te doy todo el asco del mundo, pero...
Va a estar en la lanzadera para nada.
Bueno, pues que sepas que te rellenaron la cabeza de helio, rata mental.
Por favor,
Hola, yo no digo que no le insultéis, pero digo, ¿por qué no insultéis?
Es una amiga, ¿vale?
Me tirarle el gancho.
Pero el Foxy se ha ido a llorar.
Foxy. Sí, lo voy a eliminar de amigos, ¿vale? Elimina Voy algo.
Yo he oído el rojo, no te metas.
Vaya.
Tarde, ¿no?
Tío, se ha metido, ¿no?
Sí.
Pero yo voy a ir separado, tranquilo.
Vale. Hay más curas aquí. No, eso me dejan.
No nos podemos revivir, ¿vale?
Vale, espérate que voy a ponerme un bailamano, no me mates por fasting. Que es para un amigo que está...
¿Ya?
¿Es este? No, joder. Bueno, igual ya se me quedó bailando, pero...
Me tengo
Yo que es muy...
a jugar con una amiga, ¿vale?
Al rojo yo.
Tengo que ir a jugar con una amiga.
Que no me la voy a tirar, tonto.
¿Estás seguro de que no te vas a ligar?
¿Cómo me la voy a ligar? Pero soy retrasado.
Bueno, también es verdad con la cara que tienes.
Es que tú me la has visto la cara, pero es subnormal.
Por eso.
Entonces...
Porque nadie te la mira porque da miedo. A la verga.
¿Qué color estás?
Cállate que a ver si la enseño. Nah, es porque hace ya por lo menos 2 temporadas que no juego con ella, entonces...
¡Hombre!
Vale, tira.
Chavales, puedo ser 3 hijas de la partida. Porque quiero ser un poquillo rata. Nada, chavales, voy a ir finalizando el directo. Espero que os haya gustado. Dale like, suscribiros hasta la próxima.